Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Can you hear me? Okay. So for our presentation, we'll be talking about the City of Cupertino's Public Emergency Operations Center dashboard and the hunt for the data to put it all together. My name is Adam, and this with me is Makiko. We're both from the GIS division at the City of Cupertino, which is part of the City of Cupertino's IT department. Through our presentation, we hope to highlight both the global theme of GIS Day, which is mapping minds and shaping the world, as well as our local theme of building resiliency through geospatial technology. As I mentioned, we'll be going over our Public Emergency Operations Center dashboard and using it as a basis to discuss the importance of collaboration in finding and using authoritative data. So coming up, we'll be going over some background about the emergency services efforts in Cupertino, as well as background on the dashboard. We'll review some data sources, and we'll go through the components of the dashboard in a live demo. We'll have some time at the end for our questions after we wrap with a conclusion. So to set our scene, the City of Cupertino has a permanent staff of around 200 employees, and our GIS division is centralized within the organization. We're responsible for working with our various departments, and our police and fire are contracted out through the county. So this means in the event of an emergency, our GIS division plays a key role ensuring our staff has the tools to track key information as an event unfolds. Some of the GIS tools I want to highlight include a digitized windshield survey, which uses Survey 123, or Quick Capture, and that allows our trained volunteers to report incidents directly to the EOC, where they can be visualized on the dashboard. This project provided an alternative to a more analog method, which was volunteers using radios and notepads to report local incidents after an EOC activation. Next is a building damage assessment app. We are using a web map and Survey 123, which allows our building inspectors to complete damage assessments using standardized forms while symbolizing corresponding polygons on a map. These surveys were based on FEMA forms, and having them symbolized on the map can give us a more visual perspective of the damage in the city, as well as the progress of the inspectors. And then finally, we have a situation awareness app that allows our analysts and EOC staff to interact with both the sets of data and then perform more in-depth analysis using various other layers. These tools are prime examples of how we've leveraged GIS to collect, store, and analyze information on a single platform. And so these tools wouldn't really be possible without collaboration, both with our internal staff and through external meetings like this one. So I'm reminded of this saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, because our damage assessment and our situation awareness deployments were influenced and assisted by innovations at the county and city of San Jose. As GIS professionals, we're building resilience through geospatial technology, but we are also doing that through inspiring each other. So this spirit of teamwork was crucial as we developed our Public Emergency Operations Center dashboard. So all the data we shared earlier was really just available internally and for use by our staff, but our emergency services manager said, well, what can we share to the public? So the purpose of that dashboard is to provide this single location to our public to access critical information about the city during an emergency. And we had countless meetings with that emergency services manager to understand his vision for the dashboard. He'd been involved in several different activations and had a big history of seeing what was valuable in other organizations. So it was important to him that first it was a bunch of information accessible from this single URL, and it was essential to him that the data was real-time and reliable. So through these meetings and discussions, we were able to identify what exactly was deemed critical, and we were able to harness this data through authoritative sources. So through these sources, we can gain key information about air quality, traffic, or flooding, all from data sources that extend farther than our municipal boundary. Some of the sources we added to our dashboard directly from feature services, and others we added through APIs. And for some others, we even embedded their app just directly to our dashboard. And to see how far we've come in a short time, I'll pass it over to Makiko so she can get into a quick story and go into more specifics of the dashboard.
Thank you, Adam. So before going to more details, I'm just wondering how many people remember about the CGU fire that happened to 2020. And that fire, the wildfire, came so close to the city of Cupertino. So that time, the city official was so panicked. They don't know location of the wildfire and where the evacuation zones are. And that time, I was so naive and unprepared. I was hoping somebody like Cal Fire provide the data for us, and we just map out. But that's not the case. So city officials expect we already have a data. As a GIS person, already prepared for the data. And I was panicked. Then I started looking for the data. But I looked through the data, and only data I found, the real-time data I found, was somebody volunteer put out the data. It's not authorized data. But because there's no data available, we have to rely on that data. And after 4 years, so now the things are changing. So most of the data available, real-time data is available. So this is the list of the data. So we identify we need it. And the one highlighted, the yellow, is a city-owned data. So we create the data, and we have it, and we grab those data. But most of the data, we have to rely on outside. So the wildfire, flood, natural hazard, evacuation. So luckily, nowadays, those data you can find from S3 Online or S3 Atlas, which is authorized data. And the big thing is evacuation zone. So thank you for County Fire. So that data is already available, and we can just grab the data. This is a really big thing. We are not really looking for the data anymore. So now going to demo for our dashboard. So this is the dashboard we created, and all of the data are real time. And the evacuation zone, again, from the county fire through, used to be a zone haven, but now it's Genesis Protect. And if evacuation order issued, it will show up here. And the power outage. So we try to get from PG&E, but PG&E is not really, the data is not really fed to the public. So we have to grab the data from states. And we have been monitoring, and it seems like synchronized pretty well. So it is reliable data. And the wildfire is coming from Fire Authority. And the air quality is coming from AirNav, and that is the EPA. And weather hazard now is today is big red, so there is a red flag warning is going on. So this is the big picture of what's going on in the city, and the city official can see what's going on. And next one, so if evacuation order is issued, the next step is evacuation. So we want to put some traffic data and shelter information. And the first thing is it's showing the population. It's kind of attached to the Genesis Protect. So they estimate the population in the zone. So you can tell that how many people have to be evacuated. And the shelter information and the traffic information. So we get from 511. I'm just wondering how many people know about 511. So that is an instant report coming from CHP. So this is also real-time data. And for this one, I created with a Google Map API. That's because the traffic data is available. And a little more customized. It's possible. Then go next one. It's wildfire monitoring. So this is coming from, we create with SD's dashboard. And this is a little zoom out view so that you can see surrounding area as well. Because wildfire, so you want to see not only the city, but a little outside as well. And next one, this is a great website, which I didn't create. So this is really nice. What it is a camera feed. So you can see the image. So that real-time image of the point. If you click hover the point, so you can see that the image, the current image, so that you can monitor. And what is great about it is if you click the active camera, so what is active camera is camera has some kind of sensor. So if the sensor detects wildfire and the camera moves toward to the wildfire, that's early detection of the wildfire. Yeah, that's how you detect the wildfire in early stage. So this is a good website. So these are the tutorial video if you are interested in just to explore a little bit more. And next one is, this is another great website. Again, I didn't create. So this is coming from Valley Water. And the winter season is coming up, and the rain is another concern. And if you click the point, so you can see the water level. And our concern is Stephen Creek Reservoir, because that is so close to the city of Cupertino. But the graph means, okay, just going down, that's what it means. But if you put that on, it's showing that the yellow means the spillway, so you can tell that how far it is. So this is another good monitoring tool. And this one also about webcam, so you can see that the real time, the image as well. So that's you can monitor those. And the last thing is earthquake monitoring. And this was created by SD's dashboard. So you can see that the recent activity of the earthquake. So this is a dashboard, quick review of the dashboard. So this is a public site. We do have an internal, but it looks similar to it, but a little more sensitive information is there. So with this dashboard, I hope people feel more empowered, so know what's going on, and the city official find the information right away, and hopefully this is useful. So with this, get back to Adam.
Oh. Thank you, Makiko. So to wrap things up, I did want to highlight 3 key points from our experience with this dashboard, as well as our other EOC apps. So first, we have collaboration is key. We've shared how seeing other agencies' apps inspired some of our own, and I wanted to emphasize how valuable it's been to have the discussions with our emergency services manager, who's always willing to bounce ideas off of us and explain his vision. He would ask us these questions like, hey, how do we get information about stormwater or flooding or earthquakes, and make sure we're not just putting this site on our page and telling people to go to other sites. It was really his kind of direction that was saying, I want to be able to tell people I'm talking to just go to this one site. So even though you are kind of being directed around, you're still on one landing page. And so these collaboration with getting ideas and really getting ideas from other people and from our emergency services manager allowed us to really build something more powerful. So in line with collaboration is our second point, which is to use authoritative data when possible. So as GIS has become more online, we've seen a rise in the availability of critical data from authoritative sources. And so whether it's in APIs or REST services or other apps, we as GIS practitioners have access to much more than we did just a few years ago. Like Makiko alluded to, just because the data's out there doesn't mean that you know where it is. So as professionals, it's important to be aware of what's out there, know how to access it, and know how to present what's happening when you're asked these questions in an emergency. And our final point is that this work is always ongoing. None of these tools are perfect, but something is better than nothing in these terms of situations. While this dashboard is published and ready to be used, we do have a list of future developments. We want to do a little bit more triggered notifications and kind of more dynamic splash screen with instructions. And this sort of example illustrates how important it is to regularly reassess with your users that the apps that you made for them are still meeting their needs, because our industry moves super fast. So while we hope to never use these apps in a major event like an earthquake or a huge wildfire, we can try to prepare by doing smaller events like wind events or rainstorms. Because like I said, none of these apps are perfect, but through training and testing and refinement, the most we can do is feel prepared when there's a major activation. So as a GIS community, like, we can continue to keep inspiring each other, keep sharing our ideas, and keep sharing our data. So before I close, I wanted to say thank you again to Yoko and Santa Clara County for hosting the event, and happy GIS Day.
With that, we'll open it up to questions. If you have any questions here on site, go ahead and just raise your hand. Oh, we have one question. If you have any questions online, just type it in the chat, and I will ask your question to the speakers.
Hi. So my question is, how long did it take for you to create this website? You know, how many months or years? And also, what is the number of staff that it takes to keep it going?
It's Makiko. No, but I think what I was trying to illustrate early is we started with those internal tools, and so those dashboards were also sort of a basis for, I think we probably started those in maybe 2019, like the quick capture one. And it was sort of this illustrative process of like, oh, look how informative a dashboard could be for our internal staff. So when did you think you started working on the public one?
That is really good question, because we try and error. So we started really early, but you know, sometimes dashboard we put so much information and not usable, and you know, so we try and EOC staff saying no, back then, so we back and forth so many times. So your question is maybe 4 years,
Yeah, I
but
think so.
once we know what I'm doing and communicate very well, and EOC staff is saying that, oh, I want to exactly, this one, then more visualize us, then after that it's so easy. And because we use that SRE's dashboard most of the time, so SRE dashboard is so great, so easy to put together, and interactivity is really good. So most likely, so technical side is not that difficult, but more like communication or with the EOC staff is a little more hard to do. So total is 5, but once you get to it, maybe less than 1 year.
Yeah, a very iterative process. Like I think what we heard before, it was a lot of what do you think about this one, and what do you think about this one, and can we get this? So our staff, we have Makiko worked on the majority of it. We have a part-time, and then myself, and then another like hybrid public works GIS staff. So I hope that answered your question.
Hi, yes, you spoke about some of the data is near real time. I was just wondering if you had some process that's updating things in the background, and if you do, what it was.
Did you want to talk about we didn't even show. I mean, some of the ones that are more with the process are on our internal one. Like Makiko had worked on pulling our 311 data. So she, you can talk about it.
Well, so most of them are, available through the API, and sometimes, doesn't come up as a, then, so most of the time you can feed to S3 online, so they can take a real time as long as GeoJSON. But 311 is JSON data that makes it a little more difficult to customize unless you have a velocity. If you have a velocity, then you can take any kind of file format. But we had the recent budget cut, so we couldn't do it. So then we have to, that's the reason we had to go through that Google Map API. So that is more flexible. So as long as you can use JavaScript, and so I'm not really the expert of JavaScript or anything. So as long as you know the basic, then so you can grab the data is only one thing you need for the JavaScript. So that's how it is.
Great, thank you.
It looks like we have a question from the chat from Kenny. So he works with the county library, and he had a question related to Power BI and how you use that to visualize GIS data. So his question is, what are your best practices when using Power BI versus a true GIS tool? He says he notices that sometimes ArcGIS is a little bit limited. So just, yeah.
I think we try to build things that other people can work on, so you're not the only person that can work on it. And so sometimes if it's a Power BI thing, it's like slightly easier to do the data transformations because you can connect directly to your SQL Server database without having to make any preloaded views that you do in ArcGIS dashboards sometimes. But I think for the most part, as a GIS division, if there's a map involved, usually we try to use the ArcGIS one because it's easier to maintain, and we have the staff that can continue to work on it. And then for Power BI ones, it's usually a little bit more where we want to manipulate the data like directly out of the database.
All right, I think that's all our questions. Thank you, Makiko and Adam. We like your theme of building resiliency through collaboration, so thank you.